Welcome everyone to the Condominium Management Group's October webinar series, part 3. The focus of this webinar series is the human factor. We are slightly moving away from the physical and administrative side of condominium industry and focusing on the most important element of any community, its people. In part 1, we discussed conflict resolution. Part 2, we discussed community safety, security, and resources. If you missed either of these sessions, these webinars, they can be found on our YouTube channel, on the CMG YouTube channel. Today, part 3 focuses on our communities, aging in place, and accommodations. The CMG webinar is being offered exclusively to directors in communities that we service. I am Shelley Seavey, the Resource Compliance Manager at CMG, and I'm pleased to be your moderator for this session. We have Kim. Kim is coming is with CMG, Condominium Management Group. Kim joined CMG in 2005. Prior to joining CMG, Kim has studied business admin and small business management at Algonquin College. But since 2005, Kim has worn many hats at CMG. She, due to her organizational skills and dedication, she was actually our office manager at one time, and then she migrated into condo management. And so she has been managing condominiums, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, 2008, I believe?
Yeah, 2007, 2008, yeah.
Okay, and so she acquired her own portfolio. She manages condominiums that range from newly constructed properties to properties, communities that are over 30 years old with unique and really varied requirements. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, thank you.
And next up, we have Sarah Bercier. Sarah is the Executive Director for Council on Aging in Ottawa. Since 2014. She brings with us 30 plus years of experience in the field of aging and later life. She has worked in fields of elder abuse, seniors, community housing, and has spent 8 years in management roles with the Canadian Association of Gerontology. Is that correct?
That's right.
Thank you. And she has spent the last 20 years as a consultant speaking and writing on lifestyle aspects of retirement and aging. Sarah has a passion for aging issues and enjoys working with and for seniors in the Ottawa area. Again, welcome very much, Sarah, today. And I'm so happy that you were able to join us.
Well, thanks for having us. It's great.
Excellent. Well, let's just jump right into it. So we have, there's a few items that we're going to be discussing today. We have an interesting, actually, I'll just launch our first poll. We have a poll that we're going to, let me just, there we go. I'll just launch our poll to kind of gauge which best describes the demographic in your community. If you're under 50, over 50, and that'll kind of gauge our attendees today. Excellent, thank you. I see the results popping in. We'll just share our results momentarily. And the poll, there we go. And we can see that the majority have aging communities, aging demographics in our communities. So it's quite interesting to see how that changes how you manage these communities as well. So there's unique considerations when it comes to older demographics in communities. Managing buildings or properties will also entail being in tune with needs of those communities. So let's start out today with a real life occurrence. So Kim, you have an interesting situation that occurred in one of your buildings that you manage. Can you share some of those details?
Yeah, for sure. I know we spoke about it before. It was quite interesting, and I didn't expect the positive feedback that I got from it. But basically what happened is we had a hydro issue where the power was off for over 20 hours in this one particular building with an older demographic. And we were up until 3 o'clock in the morning with Hydro Ottawa, with the electricians trying to get the hydro back on for the building. Unfortunately, it was way too long, and 3 or 4 in the morning, we all decided, okay, it's time to get some sleep. And I couldn't sleep, and I was laying there going, you know, these poor owners are going to be waking up at 6 or 7 in the morning. They're not going to be able to make coffee. They're not going to be able to make toast. So I got my 11-year-old up at 6 a.m. and said, let's go to Tim Hortons, bought a whole bunch of coffee and treats, and then, you know, went door to door or used the PA system and told all the owners, you know, we've got coffee and tea for you. We've got some snacks for you. Come down to the lobby. And so instead of getting 150 angry emails, what's going on with the hydro? Why isn't the hydro back on? What, you know, what's happening? We got a lot of really positive feedback that, you know, thank you for thinking of us in this time. We know that your priority is getting the hydro back up and running. However, that was, you know, just something small that you can do as a property manager that really positively affected the entire community.
And you really put yourself in their shoes, in the
Exactly.
shoes of your owners or residents in the building. And how could you, it's a lot of stress not having.
Well, how can you make it easier on them, right? They're the ones that don't have hydro. So how do you make that easier on them? What is it that you can do? And I know nobody wants to talk to me unless I've had my coffee. So that's why that popped in my head.
That's so true. It's not about you having coffee or me having coffee, but it is so true though that, you know, you really have to, how are these people going to wake up in the morning, and how can we help alleviate some of that stress? So Sarah, over to you. You could well relate to some of the needs of older adults in communities. And so in your role as Executive Director of the Council on Aging in Ottawa, can you tell us just a little bit about your role? And what I will do is I will just share my screen again, and there we go, and put up the contact information for your for the organization as well.
Oh, terrific. Thanks for doing that, Shelley. So basically my role, I'm the executive director, but what our organization does, we are a senior center. Most senior centers provide a lot of social activities and service provision like foot care and that kind of thing. So we're not that kind of a senior center. We're a bilingual council, and our mandate is to speak up with and for Ottawa's older adults in order to create awareness of older adult issues and drive progress on those issues. So there's a couple of ways we do that. One is through advocacy. So this is focusing on aging as a community and what can we do in Ottawa within the community to improve things for older adults. So a couple of good examples of that would be that some of you might be familiar with Ride Free Wednesdays, where seniors can ride the bus for free every Wednesday. And if you weren't familiar with that, now you know. They also now can do so on Sundays, which is fantastic. So 2 days a week. And so certainly given that, that was something that a number of years ago, the Council on Aging was very instrumental in establishing. Another very current thing that we do is we have a snow moles program where we get older adults to audit the streets around where they live. And so they go out in the winter months and they fill out checklists about how is the, how is the walkability? Is everything plowed? Is salt down? That kind of thing. The other way that we work is through education, and that focuses on aging as an individual. And so I think we're going to be talking a little later about our smart aging program as an example. So I'll leave that for there, but those are our 2 key areas of work.
Interesting. So, hey, actually, you could lead right into how the Council on Aging offers both an 8-week program and covering key topics as well as standalone workshops. Let's look at one of the workshops that you have, and there we go. Emergency preparedness. What are some of the key considerations in a condo setting?
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, I'm meeting with someone from the Red Cross today to talk about holding one in December, an emergency preparedness workshop. So I can send out the information on that. This is really key. I think some of the key considerations in a condo setting would be knowing what the most common risks are. Often older adults aren't aware of those things like power outages. So I loved Kim's story. It's something we can all relate to. Extreme winter weather, do they have enough things in their home, food and whatever. So if it is horrible weather or freezing rain or whatever, that they won't need to go out. Extreme summer weather, the extreme heat, we know that older adults are more vulnerable to that. Personal illness and, fire, of course. So that kind of thing. For residents to be really aware of the building's emergency procedures. Often they don't have a clue. I know my own mother is in a wheelchair, and so they live on the 5th floor of a condo building with it, which is almost completely older adults. And so we had to find out what happens, if there's a fire or whatever, a power outage, what do they do? And, we're laughing about, is my dad going to bump her down the stairs, for 5 flights? And, we then found out, no, they're supposed to stay in their home, call 911, all these things. So just knowing what the emergency procedures are, and that would be great to have that as a regular thing that's provided to the residents of the building. So that's great. For residents to have an emergency plan, and that's not your responsibility, but maybe just mentioning it to them once in a while, like, do you have an emergency plan? Or as you're running through the emergency plan of the building, something like that. Or having a buddy system. Are there some people in the building that maybe are more vulnerable that, someone should know to check on them or have a key to their home or that kind of thing. So checking on people is a really key thing. So those are some of the key things I would say are important for it within a condo setting.
Absolutely. And so, Kim, in your case, in the example that you gave us, there was no electricity. So there's no Wi-Fi to email people out. There's no PA system within the building. So how do you communicate in a case like that?
So in this particular case, we do have a PA system. So we were able to notify residents via the PA system through the speakers in their units. However, there are many buildings that do not have this. So you need to make sure that with yourself and your board members and your staff, that you have a communication policy when something like this happens. Even with email, if they don't have data on their cell phone, they can't connect to Wi-Fi during a power outage. So you're quickly printing off a notice with just the important details and hand delivering them to the units. Get some members of the board, some owners in the building to help you hand deliver them to the units. But one of the key points I think that was already made was, have a buddy system. If you're not able to do things on your own, make sure that you have, you check in on your neighbors that you feel may need it. That's a key.
Okay, one of the questions that came in is there certain protocol to support support residents for personal issues by condo staff during or after hours, particularly where there's an older demographic? So, sorry, go ahead.
That's a little bit of a loaded question. I guess I would need some more details on that. Certainly the staff are required to assist in emergencies, regardless of the time of day. And every corporation should keep a list of owners that do 100% require assistance in an emergency. That's actually mandated, I believe, by the Condo Act and the Fire Safety Plan. So we always want to check in on those residents that are listed on that actual list. But yes, of course, the staff and or board volunteers or owner volunteers for emergencies should definitely be helping out when needed, regardless of the time of day.
And you would also,
I was just going to say, I think it is worthwhile to note that I think it is the responsibility too of residents to have that. And often one of the number one reasons that people don't plan for emergencies is they think, oh, someone will take care of me, and of all ages. And, that's not just for older adults. So I think, helping people recognize planning for emergencies, planning ahead, if 100 residents all need help, we can only get to people so fast, right? So for people to have that plan in place as individuals is really key.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned like the buddy system, and knowing your neighbors. So often in large communities, we just go right to our doors and go inside, and you don't even get to know your neighbors. So to know your neighbors, and that definitely helps with your support system as well.
For sure.
For sure.
So Sarah, the Council on the Aging, the 8-week program that you do offer, what are some of the key topics that you do offer during that program?
Sure. So the 8-week program covers week 1 is about understanding your aging and all the things that are great about it and all the things that suck about it, and all of that, and coming to grips with it. Week 2 is about connectedness to, socially or with your faith or nature or whatever it is you're connected to. Week 3 is about healthy lifestyles and just, what's that next thing I really need to attend to and take care of. Week 4 is about preparing for a health crisis. And, often we don't have our ducks in a row. If we did have a stroke tonight, would our family know what we want as next steps, that kind of thing. Transportation options, that's often a big one. People might be driving longer than they should because they just don't know or understand or feel comfortable with the options that are out there for them. So just understanding the full range of options and what your best ones are right now. Week 6 is about housing options. So we know that most people want to stay in their own homes, and certainly the news is flying today with all the new information about long-term care coming out in the last couple of days. So certainly, housing options are a big thing. We don't want to be moving into long-term care, but maybe we should have all the information necessary so we know what our options are and can make some adaptations so we can stay in our homes as long as possible. I emphasize that one a little bit more because it's more relevant to you. And then week 7 is on common financial concerns, regardless of your level of income. Will I have enough? Can I manage with the things that I need to be doing? And week 8 is just a lovely wrap up and celebration of all that they've accomplished over the past 7 weeks. So it's a great program that covers all the basics for older adults.
And during the pandemic, and have you still been offering this 8-week workshop, and how have you been offering it?
We have been offering it. We did do it in person before the pandemic. And of course, as with everyone, we've moved it online during the pandemic, which has gone surprisingly well. A lot of it is about older adults talking with one another. We break off into groups quite regularly through the workshops and have them learn from one another, which is really, really well done. We've also developed some new workshops, which are standalone workshops. You don't have to take the full 8 weeks to take that one session. And that's where the emergency preparedness session came in. And interestingly, I'll throw this in here, the next 3 that we're looking to develop. One is aging in community with services and supports, aging in community with renovation and modification, and returning home from hospital. Those are 3 key things about keeping people in community. And I would suspect these are issues that your clientele run into all the time. So, people coming home from hospital and, you worry about them and do they have the right supports that they need and all those things. So those are 3 that we're anticipating coming online probably in the next year or so.
Okay, and that kind of leads into one of the questions that's in our Q&A, and I'll direct this towards Kim. So in your experience, Kim, if there is an issue with somebody, for example, who has fallen, and where does the, responsibility lie? If you have staff members in your condo building and somebody has fallen, let's say within their unit, what is the recommendation at that point?
Well, I guess it depends on who the owner has called, but 100%, if they call the emergency line and the superintendent.
Oh, you've kind of frozen up a bit there. We'll just
goes to the unit because they, are we good?
Yep, we're good now.
We're good now? Okay, so if the superintendent is called, by all means, they're to go into the unit. They do have a key to the unit for emergency purposes such as this. However, every superintendent should know not to touch the resident at all. They are to call 911 right away and let the paramedics handle that. Any slight movement, if somebody falls, can be detrimental to the recovery process. So every superintendent should know, go ahead, attend to the unit, get in the unit, let them know that you're there for them. 911's on the way, do not touch them.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. for answering that question, Kim. They're real life situations that we all have to navigate, and in the heat of the moment, it's like, what do you do? First line is call 911.
Yeah.
That's for sure. You want to step in to assist, but really let the professionals assist and know that they're on their way.
That's it.
So a lot of good topics, Sarah. If a board was to request that an 8-week program be offered, that one of a property or a community that has quite a bit of interest, is it possible to offer this program on site?
It is possible. What we're looking at doing over this coming year is actually sort of creating the program in a box where it would be able to be delivered as long as one person was willing to facilitate it. We would have all the presentations by video and that kind of thing, and provide training to the person willing to lead it. So I would suspect we'll be ready to launch that next fall. So we would be really open to doing that kind of thing. That would be wonderful. So certainly if you're interested, do be in touch, because we're starting to collect names of people who are interested to have exactly that, Shelley.
Oh, excellent. Well, in the chat, I had put into your contact information as well. So feel free to contact Sarah directly if you'd like to ask further questions about coordinating something for your community. So if, and again, Sarah, if an owner is past the time of being able to live independently in their unit, do you offer resources? I know you don't offer the services, but direction or resources where a board can go, or maybe family members can go to help assist with this owner?
Sure. No, that's a really good question. We don't directly do that, but certainly we could direct people to that. So you want to go to the LIN, which is now renamed. I've forgotten the name on the moment, but the LIN, the Local Health Integration Network, as it was formerly known, would be the place to go. And you get a care coordinator who would then meet with the person and start determining, what steps need to be taken to maintain them in their home until such a time as they can, have another living arrangement with greater supports. So that's a great question though, Shelley.
Yeah, and in many cases, and we understand that there's a lot of directors that are on this call, and Kim, directors feel so committed to the communities that they do service. But it's important to know your role as a director and your role as a manager, and where to step in to help assist owners and where to reach out to family members.
Absolutely. And, I think that I actually had an instance in a condo where an owner who should not have been living alone had no family. They had no emergency contacts. We had no information on them. And we had no choice but to call the city of Ottawa and the police for them to send healthcare professionals into the unit to assess the situation and properly put this person in an appropriate living environment for her. That took a couple months, and it was quite scary, and you're worried, are they cooking? Are they, you're constantly wanting to check on them to make sure that they're safe and okay. So there are definitely things out there that you can do in a case like that. That's very extreme and hopefully should not happen often, but unfortunately it does happen.
So, and as far as making modifications to age in place, Sarah, what kind of modifications? Actually, what I'll do is, before I go on to that question, I'll just launch our next poll, which is an aging in place modification. So have you made modifications within a unit to accommodate aging in place? We'll just launch our poll to see who could comment on that, if they have or have not made these types of accommodations and modifications. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone, for chiming in on the poll this afternoon. We'll keep it up for just a few more seconds, and then we'll share our results. Thank you very much. And so many have not made these types of modifications. So with that being said, Sarah, what kind of modifications would a homeowner, a resident, be looking at making to age in place?
Absolutely. And oftentimes, I don't know if the people in the call are the managers or if they actually live in the units, but it could be that they've had contractors in and it's not your staff that are doing that work. So lots of people may have had it done. But what I did in preparing to look at something like that, I went to two of our key corporate members who specialize in adapting homes for older adults. One is Build Able, if you're ever looking for some references, and the other one is Renos for Life. And both of them have fantastic websites with lots of information on what to do. But so the most common things, as you can imagine, number one is going to be the bathroom. You know, things like grab bars and raised toilets and tub cutouts and tub finishes and anti-slip treatments, all those kinds of things, roll-in shower entrances, etc. So all that kind of thing. Another big one is the kitchen. It could be the heights of things, height of the dishwasher. It's one you might not think of, but it can go in the middle of, of a wall so that it's not so hard to bend down, because when we bend, that's when we fall, and that kind of thing. Counter heights, a roll under counter, drawers in lower cabinets rather than having to bend over and reach in, and a stove with front buttons is quite significant, to not have to reach over the heat and that kind of thing. I appreciated, Kim's concern about, are they cooking? Are they, are there things that there comes a point where maybe that shouldn't be done? So certainly that kind of thing. And then some general modifications would be things like pocket doors. Instead of the big doors that swing open, they might be obstructing for someone with a walking aid or a wheelchair. Widen doorways, eliminating of scatter rugs. I have seen some people, I think twice I've seen putting a ramp in where, for example, if there was a sunken living room, it might seem like that would take a lot of space, but better than falling as you step down into your sunken living room. Railings in hallways is another one. So there's a lot of different modifications that you can put in to make that happen.
Yeah, that is quite a list of considerations.
For sure.
Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, anything inside the unit for condominiums, because I believe they're all board of directors on here. There are requirements by law that obviously for ramps and things like that you have no choice, but you need to put in. But always make sure that you stay with your bylaws and your corporate records to ensure that the modification of these are approved by the board and you follow the proper channels.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something to consider too. So any directors or residents that are considering those modifications, and if there is any, even within the unit. So a lot of residents believe that within the walls of their unit, there is no need to consult with the condominium corporation or management, but better be safe than sorry is to consult with your property manager, a condominium manager, to see if that particular modification is something that has to be reviewed and approved by your board of directors. Absolutely. So Kim, what are the steps to take then for if I am considering renovations to, let's say, to a bathroom, and I'm putting in grab bars and accommodations to maneuver a little bit more safely within a bathroom? What are the steps to consider before endeavoring these changes?
Implementing, yeah. So basically the first thing would be to hire a professional plumber or the professional contractor to do this type of work that you require. Then you want to submit that information to the property manager. The property manager should know your bylaws and rules and regs like the back of their hand. And they will be able to tell you this is perfectly fine. It's within the unit, go ahead, you don't need approval from the board, or okay, this part might require approval from the board, so please fill out this form. Again, every corporation's different, so there's probably a form called modification to the common elements that they would need to fill out, and the property manager would then get confirmation from the board that they can proceed. But as a property manager, I think you want to make sure that you want to do whatever you can to get these whatever this owner needs in place to make their living still enjoyable within their unit. So it's, you know, it's not really an option. It's a how do we make it happen, sort of. Yeah.
So it's how to look at the situation uniquely and try to accommodate as well.
Exactly.
Now, to change from the inside to the outside. So with winter coming and snow coming and ice coming, what are some of the perhaps accommodations, Kim, that you would suggest that owners should consider to navigate, let's say, front steps if they're in townhomes or even in parking lots?
So this is a tough one because, you know, I believe every corporation would have a snow removal contract where the snow removal company is responsible to do the snow removal, sand, salt, ice, all that kind of stuff to keep it safe, shovel the walkways. However, there's specific guidelines in the contract. For example, they do not have to be on site until the end of any snowfall. So if an owner needs to leave, it's recommended to make sure you're wearing proper footwear. I always leave a big bin of salt outside the main entrance so that if people are coming in and it is icy, the snow contractor's already been there, but maybe it's still freezing rain, and you know, the owners can put some sand or salt down on the ice in between the snow removal contractor. But just to be you know, to be extra cautious, you know, when we hire snow removal companies, they don't just sit on your property for the 6 months of winter. They have many properties, so they may not be there exactly when we need them to be. So just be cognizant of that and wear proper footwear and be very careful. And that's about it.
Okay, and Sarah, you had made some good points too about, you know, be cognizant of your environment, as well as, you know, taping down seasonal carpets at entrances, and make accommodations for not leaving.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be quite key. Yeah.
Yeah, don't go out if you don't need to go out.
That's right. That's right. Wait until the plows come, or have an option. And I think that's going to be one of the great outcomes of COVID is, you know, often I have this appointment to get to. Well, now, you know what, your doctor may just say, call me instead. And so I think we're going to have a lot more accommodations for weather and various things going forward, which I think will be a nice blend going into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads into the next topic today, is the use of technology. So you had mentioned, Sarah, that you have a referral for Connected to Canadians. Is that right?
Yeah, Connected Canadians is a great group, and they do focus on more vulnerable groups, a lot of older adults in particular, who maybe need technology. Maybe they can't afford it, or they need training on technology. They get online, but they're like, now what do I do? Yeah, I know my dad got a cell phone at age 90, and he was like, okay, grandchildren, show me how to use it. So often, you know, they need a little training to figure out, you know, what do I do with this? And then it's actually using it and getting online and saying, hey, look at all these courses I can take, or, you know, information I can get at, and maybe I can do my shopping online instead of going out and, you know, on a bad day to do whatever. So yeah, Connecting Canadians is a great one. And we are offering, in fact, ourselves coming up, one on online banking and shopping. But there are different ones out there for sure. There's a lot of information online today.
And I know in condo land, we have also been pushed to use technology and virtual meetings. Many condos have been pushed to adopt these new ways of meeting. And the good news is that they have been very successful in getting a lot of owners engaged who never thought that they would be using Zoom as a verb. But Kim, can you please, what are some of the pros, let's say, of conducting meetings virtually, and then some of the cons of doing these as well now?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because I think virtual meetings can be more efficient. It's easier to raise your hand and ask a question, but at the same time, I've got to tell you, I do miss the in-person meetings. I miss seeing my owners. I miss, them telling me about their grandkids or whatever, so it's different. It's better for business, but on the social aspect, it's tough, right? You don't get that one-on-one connection with your owners, that environment. I mean, as a property manager, you need to be trusted by all the owners in your condominium. And so they want to see you, and they want, it's been tough for them. I'm gonna tell you a little story. My mom refused to get an iPad. I wanted to get her an iPad so she could play games and stuff on it and pass the time away. Nope, not getting it. I got her one for Christmas anyways. And now when we go over for dinner, we have to tell her to put the iPad down at the dinner table. So technology can be very intimidating for people. But I think if you just, you give it a try, you might find that you really like it for sure.
That's a really good takeaway, Kim. Just sometimes you give it a try. And again, I think we could all relate to our parents. My mother is an Apple whiz. She should be a spokesperson for Apple now. And so definitely if you give it a try, but it does lose that sense of socializing. So, some residents do miss that. But if you had perhaps a suggested like a separate occasion where, since things are easing up a little bit more now, in the future, perhaps you could plan a daytime coffee and cookies, coffee and muffins, and if you have a party room or, an evening wine and cheese, you could, I'm not suggesting drinking or anything, but but if something like that where the focus is just social, it's not business.
Yeah, because I think the owners miss that too. If they're used to seeing their property manager, and then all of a sudden they've barely seen them throughout the last 18 months, it's a change for them. They enjoyed their time and their little chats and whatever. So it's been tough on them, and I think we're cognizant of that. But virtual seems to be more convenient. You save a ton of time from driving from place to place. So for sure, it's definitely got pros and cons, but it depends on each individual corporation.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think we're almost wrapping it up. I'm going to just hand it back over to Sarah and Kim for maybe some key takeaways for today. So if there's anything that comes to mind as a key takeaway for today, over to you, Kim.
So I think the main key takeaway for me today would be, as a property manager, we're so busy. We're dealing with 100, juggling 100 balls a day. But if you take just a few minutes and put yourself in your owner's shoes and see, what is it that they're missing? What is it that they need? What is it that they would want? That little bit of time and effort that you put in is going to save you a lot of time in the long run. For example, I would have received 150 nasty emails about the hydro, but instead I got 72 thank yous. And that is probably the best outcome that could have happened in a really horrible situation. So I think if you just take a little bit of time, obviously your priority is getting things fixed. That little bit of time will save time in the long run.
Thank you, Kim. Sarah, over to you.
I think for me, the key things is to recognize that older adults really do want to stay in their homes, and anything we can do to support that is really, really helpful. We don't want them to be scared of emergencies coming up. We want them to feel prepared, and we want them to be safe in their homes. And so, having maybe a list of resources of contractors for them to call or what have you. Of course, you can't specifically recommend anyone, but that kind of thing is really helpful. And reviewing emergency procedures. I think is really, really helpful. And as far as I know, often, it just doesn't happen. We assume that's known or it's posted somewhere or whatever. Certainly, if you know of any information, educational opportunities, certainly post those on the, bulletin board in the mailroom or whatever it is. And one thing I did want to come back to, you asked earlier about the educational program that we have, our Smart Aging program. And I was saying next fall, but one that we certainly would have available anytime is our emergency preparedness workshop. If any of you are interested in having us run that, absolutely do contact me. It's a 2-hour workshop, well worth sitting through. And if any of you would like to sit through it just to see what it would be like for your residents, absolutely, give me a buzz and I'll send you off the link to the upcoming one, which will probably be in December.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. That is some great information, and as well as offer going forward too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you might have a few.
I think I might be going.
Yes. Yes. Come on down.
And again, I'd like to thank both ladies this afternoon for joining. It's been a great conversation. It's been a lot of resources, a lot of tips, and I think that our attendees are probably going to leave with some great ideas of how to accommodate some of our aging communities. Again, thank you very much, Kim and Sarah, for joining the discussion today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar series. Again, we really appreciate your comments and suggestions. And so, of course, please keep them coming. And as well as we will be offering the CMG Director webinar series in November as well. And it is Money Matters. So we will be sending more information out about that one, as well as a short survey following this session. Be sure to join us in November. And again, the CMG team is proud and honored to serve the board of directors and the owners of communities. And we thank you again for joining, and have a great day, everyone.